Hello, I'm Kerry Sims, County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources serving Angelina County with the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Up next is part 4 of our 4-part series. This is the one I was looking forward to the most. Garrett and I talk a lot about these hot topics. We're going to talk about what's natural, what does that mean, what's organic, what's cage-free, and how does that differ from free range, and how does that differ from pastured poultry. Then we're going to talk about hormones and antibiotics. Is it used? Or is there such thing as a hormone-free chicken? We'll have some fun with those topics. It's about 10 minutes long. Be sure and check out Garrett's YouTube page. Garrett is he's currently the poultry farm manager for the Stephen F. Austin State University. So he does that. He's finished up his master's degree. But check out his own personal YouTube page at Texas Precision Poultry. He's got about 139 or more videos now by the time this gets up, where you can learn a lot about backyard poultry production. Thank you for watching. Here comes our last part in this series. Hello, I'm Kerry Sims, County Extension Agent for Angelina County Extension Office. Again, here we're in part 4 of the home poultry production, and with me is
Garrett, the Chicken Man Ashburner.
So I'm excited about this. I've been taking notes. I've been sitting behind the camera for the first 3 sessions. Hope you've had a chance to watch that. I've got a lot of notes here. I'm excited to go back through them. I'm learning as well as we go through this. This is kind of our hot topics session.
Oh yeah.
Let me kind of run over them in a hurry, and we'll come back to them. We're going to talk about what's a natural chicken, what's organic, what's cage-free, what's free range. It might be, what's and what's pastured. I mean, there's free range and pastured. We're going to talk about hormones. See if we can find us a hormone-free chicken, and antibiotics. Things, hot topics. So let's natural poultry, natural chicken. What is that?
That is a great question. So if you buy something from the store, so
right,
whether that's a natural, it's raised, a natural egg or a natural cut of chicken or a natural whole chicken,
right,
that simply means that it has not been processed. So
yes,
it has nothing to do with the production system. It means that that chicken has not been marinated. It hasn't been turned into sausage or turned into ground meat. It's just simply a whole cut of meat or an egg. So it's just a label that people use.
I was doing some research on a beef program that I was given, and talking to some groups, and natural means legally on the production side nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
In all the organic standards and all the beef, that's not even a term. It's I guess the fairest thing to say is it's a marketing term.
Definitely.
It's marketing. So okay, I'm natural. Are you natural? Are we all good to go? I mean, haven't been processed, and yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, that being said, let's talk about something that does have some teeth in regards to the law, and that's organic.
Yes, exactly. So we've got organic. We now have organic poultry. There's quite a few producers producing organic poultry, and that simply means that it was raised in a system that did not have any synthetic chemicals put into it, and its feed. So the grain that it was used did not was not grown with synthetic chemicals. So, if it was a crop field, we use a lot of corn and soybean, so it was a corn and soybean fields that didn't have synthetic fertilizers or biocides, but they can have natural organic. So instead of like rock phosphate as a fertilizer or neem oil as a or insecticide. So just to keep that in mind in the production system itself, we use quite a few, we've used a lot of different types of vitamins and some different types of medications like coccidiostats and so on to maintain the health of our bird. They have to be from an organic source. So we use a lot of essential oils in the water.
Right.
Versus like a hydrogen peroxide to keep microbial count in the water down. We use a variety of essential oils. A lot of them come down to garlic and pepper and stuff like
rosemary and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, one thing you said earlier, which was, and you've said it and I've heard it, that you said synthetic chemicals. So you're implying that there's non-synthetic, or might I say, naturally occurring
Oh,
chemicals.
definitely.
And that gets lost. There's a whole lot of chemicals.
Oh yeah, baking soda is considered a chemical,
Yes.
and Epsom salt's a chemical, and they mine it straight out of the ground.
And that's crucial as we talk about. Well, I'm chemical free. Are you now? Because that's a big bold claim to say you're chemical free. I mean, you don't use. Yeah, we can go and dig out of the ground chemicals.
Oh, definitely.
And so, but when we say synthetic, that means that we've manufactured that in a lab, often maybe to replicate something that was found naturally at a cheaper. The cost to produce that is cheaper than it is the cost to raise it and to extract it out of a plant. I'm thinking of what is it? The pyrethrum. That's in a chrysanthemum. Pyrethrum is a fantastic insecticide, but I can't grow enough. Well, the economic factors to grow enough chrysanthemums to pull out the pyrethrum. I'll keep my to keep my names right. Well, we can make a bunch of pyrethroids, all those pyrethrins and all that. We can manufacture that, but we've chose to do it organically. And okay, so if I say I'm going to raise organic chickens, or I'm going to sell organic eggs, can I just advertise that, or what's the rules?
No, you've got to sit there and be organically certified.
And how do I get certified?
That's the thing. It's a very interesting thing, because there are many agencies that will certify you as organic. You can do it through the USDA or the I would say hundreds of organic certification companies.
Okay,
So,
I didn't. And I've always sent folks to the Texas Department of Agriculture website, where it lists the USDA qualification, certification, the fees that you pay, the inspections. You've got to be. You can only use their list of organic, natural pesticides for what, 3 years? Is that still the same in poultry?
To my understanding, yes.
Okay, so there'll be a number of years. All of this is spelled out on the Texas Department of Agriculture website and other private websites as well.
It's basically those private people that will come out and certify you. They go by the same regulations.
Okay,
So
they're
it's
all
just
following this. Okay.
exactly. So,
All right, very good. So organic is it's got legal teeth to it. We just can't claim. I can claim, going back to I can claim I'm natural. That's a marketing tool.
Oh, definitely.
I can't just decide one week that my barred rocks, because my wife loves barred rocks. Her grandmother had them. So I just can't say that we're going to sell organic barred rock eggs, because I haven't gone through the cycle, the certification process, been inspected, paid my fees, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Cage free.
Cage free.
What does that mean?
In commercial industry, so if we're raising something cage free, that means it simply wasn't raised in a cage. It doesn't mean it was raised in, doesn't mean it was raised outside. It was probably raised indoors. It just was not in a cage.
Okay.
So all commercial broilers are raised cage free.
Because they're those big houses.
Exactly, whether they're labeled like that or not. A lot of egg production is starting to become egg cage free. They call them aviary systems or free range systems. There's a lot of them.
Okay.
They're becoming cage free, and we're finding issues in that, and we're working on genetically changing those issues.
Right.
Like a lot of foot pad issues when we've bred single combed white leghorns to be on wire for the past, let's see, since 1920, I think Dr. James Dryden was breeding chickens in cages.
That's 100 years.
Yes.
That's 100 years.
Definitely, exactly. We've got to sit there and backtrack now and make birds that have good hardy foot paws. But I'll say this: most of our backyard birds we don't have to deal with that.
Right. Would a cage be defined as a structure to hold one bird at a time? Is it that simple, or is it a little more?
They can have what do they call? They've called them if I'm not, it's like a flock cage. No, I'm sorry, the colony cage.
Colony.
Yeah, so they can have up to 30 birds in that cage. So it's a big old long cage, and there's about 30 birds in there. It's from a welfare standpoint.
And so that's cage free.
No, that's not cage free. It's
because there's 30 in
they're still in a cage. So, but it's a welfare standpoint because chickens can remember about 30 other birds.
I'd like to see the researcher that came up with that. Okay, so cage-free, all right, cage-free.
So most of our backyard chicken production is cage-free, but our backyard quail production typically isn't quite cage-free.
All right, so you were talking earlier about if I'm just going to have a coop, did you say 5 square feet per bird?
Mm-hmm.
And if I have something that's 50 square feet, so I've got 10 birds in there, are they cage-free?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's
as long as they're not in like some type of wire or plastic cage up off the ground, they're not cage-free.
Okay,
so
all right. Free range.
Free range. So that's a good point. A lot of backyard producers raise their birds free range. In a commercial standpoint, that simply means that they have had access to the outdoors, and that could literally mean a square foot.
So I take one of these big broiler houses.
Yep.
And off to the side, I'm just going to make it a 3 foot by 3 foot with a 3 foot up. I've got a top on there, the welded wire,
mm-hmm.
or the what was the other
hardware
cloth
mm-hmm.
that you were talking about. And I've made that secure. And so there's how many birds in one of those houses?
So depending on the size, we keep 25,000.
25,000 birds, give or take a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a 3 foot by 3 foot off to the side. Sunlight, wind blows through. It's welded wire or hardware cloth, like you've taught us. And those are free range.
Yep. That's USDA considered free range. So it is what it is.
They may be too scared to even go out with that.
Most of them don't, because I'll say it like this. I've studied poultry management for a while. Those commercial chicken houses, whether you like it or not, those are scientifically made to keep the most optimal temperatures and humidity for those birds. So we've got all types of fan systems. There's a computer connected to every house.
Right.
So those I'll admit, whether we like it or not, they may not look happy or something like that, but they're in
climate controlled. They're good.
Oh yeah.
Much more so than the sweltering heat of our summers or the cold wet that we may have. They don't need either one of those, and that's those. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, if I'm not happy enough with that, well then let's push on to pastured poultry. What does that mean? That's different from free range.
It is very different from free range, and it is becoming more and more sought after.
Mm-hmm.
There are all kinds of pastured systems. There are small, what they call chicken tractors that move across pastures and stuff like that. There are large companies that have chickens out on pasture.
Mm-hmm.
I think like Vital Farms, they have 140 square feet per bird. So
140 square feet. Oh,
so that's the coop and the pasture.
And
they rotate pastures and stuff like that. So they have pasture raised simply means that they have had access to pasture. So it's different from free range, because you could have free range concrete. But pasture means that I've had access to pasture. It's becoming more evident that the consumer wants it.
Right.
And I will say, whether I've argued with this with other poultry scientists.
Yeah.
A pastured egg is very different from a.
And I was going to ask you that, because they are eating the vegetation.
Exactly.
They're eating some bugs.
Exactly. Yep.
Good high protein.
They're getting sunlight, so they're getting a lot of.
Okay.
I'll say that. So when we're talking about the scientific thing, if there's a significant difference, that's a good thing.
Yes.
Statistically, we found a large enough difference. So between regular chicken eggs, so just regular commercial chicken eggs, or in a pastured egg has more vitamin D. It has more essential fatty acids.
Okay.
Essential B fatty acids. So a little bit more healthier,
Mm-hmm.
Lower cholesterol, and a little bit more folic acid.
Okay.
So overall, it is pastured poultry. We'll have to do more research on it, but if they're raised correctly, they're a little bit more nutritious. But it's also one of those things you got to make sure and raise them correctly. If we're doing it unsustainably, where all these chickens they eat all the grass and we don't plant any more,
right.
We're going to have erosion. They're not
Right.
going to have those things anymore because they're not eating the material. And I'll also mention the keratin content. Pastured egg dark orange.
Yes, much
You know,
more. Yes.
If I'm not a plant physiologist, I nearly failed that class.
Oh, no.
So the chlorophyll, as it recedes, keratin takes into account. That's why dead grass is kind of browny,
Right.
and dead leaves are orange and red. Is that correct?
I believe
It's something in that.
as the chlorophyll dies away, you see the colors, which is brown, red, yellow, come out.
And it's that carrot. It's something
Yes.
to the keratin in there.
Okay.
So that's that they're picking up that keratin in the leaf, and that's what they're depositing it in the egg.
Okay.
So
Okay. I'll buy that.
And I'll say it like this: keratin's a pigment. There's not a lot of nutrition in it. So
But it's got eye appeal.
exactly.
And it sells.
Oh, definitely.
It looks better if you're not selling. It looks better in your plant. Okay, now pastured poultry could be the real bucolic scene of the big, I don't know, the big wagon that we move around and chickens going, hens everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it could also be that, and I think Joel Salatin made it popular. Popularized it.
Mm-hmm.
The chicken tractor, where maybe I've got some broilers and they're 50 to maybe a 4x4? No, 50 to he's got that small.
Yeah, and I can't.
But those
I
are
want to
both-
say his broiler pens are like 12 by 10.
12 by 10.
And he can keep, which that's about 120 birds in there.
Okay, 120.
Yeah, because
okay.
broilers are a little bit different because
Right.
we can keep them because they're commercial. We can keep them at a lower square footage.
Okay,
So,
so that would be pastured. That mobile chicken tractor, and then that big open pasture, where you just expect the chickens to be singing. They're so happy or whatever.
Yeah.
That's both.
oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I don't know if you did. I went to his farm and I worked with him for a couple days.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I will have to talk more about
we've
that.
met and I ate dinner with them and I stayed in his mom's house over that week. So that
Oh,
was
my goodness.
they're very very interesting times.
What he's got, I guess the easiest place. If you're going to be watching this interview on YouTube, you can check him out on YouTube as well, and several other books and other places.
definitely,
I'm sure.
definitely.
So Joel Salatin, fantastic. All right, so if I want to do pastured poultry, I like that. I like that they're going to be out.
And that's also can be considered free range as long as most
Right.
pastured poultry is considered free range.
If I wanted,
we also have to make sure predators.
well, how do I do that?
So-
you said, you said those livestock guardian dogs,
Livestock guardian geese.
livestock guardian
Because
geese.
geese are, have you ever met a mean old nasty gander?
No, I let somebody else meet it. But okay, so I could raise one goose,
Because that goose will hopefully bond to those chickens because they're birds. And
start
they'll-
them out young with the flock.
Exactly, and they will protect them. Most hawks won't deal with geese because they're mean, and most predators besides a coyote they'll be deterred by the goose because geese are mean and they're loud. So, but eagles, that's a little bit different.
Well, true.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then there's also those shining, flickering things. Those are very good for.
Just aluminum
predators.
pie plants.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they make commercial styles
Okay.
of those.
And that won't bother our poultry
No,
flock.
it won't. So
But it'll bother the
exactly. It basically, as the light shines, it hits the eye of the raptor, and they just can't focus in on a chicken.
You talked about if we want to do free range, we want to do pastured. You talked about that proper rotation schedule. I've worked a lot with cattle systems where we can come back once every 30 days on the same piece of ground. Can we do that with chickens, or is there a disease pressure issue?
Typically, if we leave them about 30, 40 days, a lot of those diseases are going to go away,
Okay.
especially if we have higher organic matter content.
Right.
The microbial activity in the soil will
Yes.
a lot of times take care of your bacteria, your fungi, your protozoa.
Okay.
Certain types of viruses are a little bit different. But if you do leave it that long,
Right.
that grass is going to be too high for those chickens to eat. So you're either going to have to graze it down with livestock or mow it. So just something to keep in mind.
So the shortest amount of time on good soil with the good levels of organic matter is 30 days.
Yes.
But that 30 days, that grass, what would be the height of the grass that I can turn chickens on?
Typically, they say about 4 to 6 inches. I wouldn't want to get anything above 7 or 8. Kind of one of those things. They can still eat it, but it's it's a little bit more high in cellulose. They can't digest it very well. Chickens can digest grass before anybody says. They have like a horse has a cecum.
Right.
Chickens have ceca. They have 2. So they
can, okay.
But they're not very efficient at it. They're not efficient like a cow and a rumen or a horse in their cecum. But they can digest plant matter.
So if I've got free range or pastured poultry and I've got them on let's just,
if you can get them on a legume, so like clover or vetch,
right?
They can eat. They can digest that really easily.
And that's a high protein.
Yeah. So they can take carbohydrates out of the feed,
right?
And then they'll take the nitrogen out of the legume, and in their digestive system they'll attach it, because all a protein is a carbohydrate plus nitrogen.
Right.
You'll make protein.
On, let's say, in the middle of summer on Bahia pasture, which is Bahia is not a native grass. It's native to South America. It's our most common pasture grass.
Mm-hmm.
And in the summer, mid to late summer, that's really the lowest quality. So if I've got them in an open grassy area, I'm going to say it's Bahia grass because that's pretty typical for our area. I've kept it short. Maybe that old Pensacola Bahia, it's not grown tall anyways, but I don't need to worry about the seed heads. How much is that going to offset my feed bill? Is that a way to save on a feed bill, or am I just improving the quality of the egg and the nature of the?
It will decrease your feed bill slightly, upwards of a fourth. Kind of one of those things, because again, they're going to still eat the feed, and you got to feed them.
Yes.
They can't live entirely on pasture. They're omnivores. They're meant to eat.
And that's with poor summer pasture.
Exactly.
But if I could turn them loose on some legumes,
that will decrease feed costs even more. So
up to half, or
give or take, if it's really good quality legumes. But you still got to give them the carbs so they can take that nitrogen and make it with the carbs, make a protein. So
all right,
give or take about a half. So
okay. Last 2 items: hormones and antibiotics.
I love talking about hormones.
Let's talk about hormones.
So I'll say it like this.
All right.
It has been illegal to give chickens hormone or give all poultry hormones since the 1940s. So that label, grown without hormones, is just a marketing tool.
It's like me telling the police officer I did not go over 55, and I don't get to brag about it. That was the law anyways.
Yeah.
But it's advertising.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we did not since the 1940s.
If I'm not mistaken, it was like 1941, 1944. So
nearly 80 years ago.
Yeah, I think there was 1 or 2 research trials that gave chickens hormones, and the USDA shut it down right then and there.
Okay.
So
a non-topic, but a misleading advertising tool.
Exactly.
That. Okay.
I will say.
Yes.
Where some people, because the genetics of rapid growth.
Right.
Because it's all genetics.
Yes.
It is all genetic. It is about 90% genetics and about 10% and what we understand of nutrition.
Right.
So those birds naturally grow that large at that time, and that's 60, 70 years of genetic work.
Sure.
So because I think that genetic work started in also the 1940s. But what I'm saying to that is, could there be a hormonal thing that is naturally present in the bird because of that high growth? Maybe. I know it's one of those things. Avian hormones and human hormones don't coincide.
Okay.
It's one of those things. We don't understand the avian endocrine system very well at all.
Oh,
but
wow.
our mammalians, there is reproductive physiologists that only do hormones.
Yeah.
Chicken and avian species, we just don't know that very well.
Okay.
So
So hormones, advertising, smoke and mirrors, we're good to go since the 40s.
Yep.
The 19. All right. Antibiotics.
Antibiotics. So another good topic. So we, as poultry scientists, we used antibiotics quite a bit in the later end of the 1900s.
Okay.
We were changing things up. We were putting more birds in houses. We were switching. 1940, 50, 60s. Most people still had chickens in their backyard, and they were. There was no centralized poultry industry. It was just, if I needed eggs, I'm probably going to go to the neighbor down the road.
Yes.
But when we got more into industry, we were learning how to keep these birds in the confinement housing.
Right.
So one way they did it was with higher levels of antibiotics. We learned that that's not a very good thing. It leads to superbugs, and it leads to degradation of our soil organic matter, and killing of our microbes in our soil, and that's a definitely bad thing.
Right.
Because it would pass through the litter, and we'd spread the litter on fields, and then that would kill the bacteria. So we switched around with that. We had to change to what what we kind of understand today is subtherapeutic antibiotic treatment.
Right.
Which is
big word. What does that mean?
So,
sub-therapeutic.
So it is at levels that aren't great enough to really affect the microbial life in the bird, but it's just enough to alter the microbial life in the gut of the bird. And the thing is, it mostly targets harmful bacteria, and it leaves the beneficial bacteria.
Because there's a world of beneficial bacteria.
Definitely.
I mean, that's what's in the soil, in our gut systems.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a world of beneficial. So, all right.
So we use.
So we're targeting the poor.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't go to the litter anymore. It's once it hits the litter, it's
breaks apart. Right.
Exactly. So. And you won't get antibiotics in the meat because we use a withdrawal feed, so without any antibiotics or any type of medication. So for the last 2 to 3 weeks of the bird's life before they gets into the processing plant, that they're not had any access to medication. So by the time that you get it at your table, it has no medications. But I'll say this: consumer demand. They don't like it. They don't like any.
No.
So it's changing.
Yeah.
So we're using essential oils. We're using probiotics.
Right.
Under a good, well managed subtherapeutic level, or subtherapeutic antibiotics, we could keep our mortality less than 3%. So that's great.
Yeah, that's a huge industry. Yeah, that's every home backyard chicken producer would love to keep it below 3%. I mean, and that's not feasible.
Yeah.
We just don't have. Okay, so
but with the probiotics and essential oils, we've had to raise that bar, our bar to. We don't want to get it anywhere above 10%, but we try to maintain
10% mortality.
Yes, a 5% mortality.
Yeah, because you've got the welfare of the bird, and that's the thing that I've wrestled with. Is we don't use antibiotics, and I'm sitting there thinking, if an animal's sick, we want to take care of that, and that's a. But then if the consumer wants no antibiotics at all in the bird, well then, by golly, they'll probably. I mean, because that's going to be with that death loss, you're going to have a little bit more premium paid for that product. But then going back to this meat. These eggs are antibiotic free. Isn't that more marketing?
Oh,
because
definitely.
it's illegal to have any antibiotics in the system. And I mean,
that's correct.
I mean, so that's another.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like it's all natural and there's no antibiotics in this meat. Right, and the USDA would come down hard on any poultry outfit that did
Exactly. Yeah.
that did have that. So okay, all right. The USDA inspectors, is it? Am I right to say that to believe that the USDA inspectors probably they're pulling samples to
Oh,
test
definitely.
for that?
Definitely. So
they're-
they pull it even before it gets into the processing plant. So they take samples out of live birds, and if there's any herbicides, if there's any pesticides, if there's any antibiotics or medications, that whole flock cannot go to the processing
That
plant.
whole, not just the truckload, but everything that came from that farm. Which,
Yeah, that whole farm. So that's something that you got to keep in mind. So.
Yeah. So myth busting. All right. So natural and organic, cage free, free range, pastured poultry, hormones and antibiotics. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it.
I got to know Garrett when he was in high school, or maybe gosh in junior high, I forget.
Yeah.
And he's always had a passion for this. He's gone to SFA, working on his master's degree, about to wrap that up.
Yes, sir.
This will live on YouTube beyond that, and soon we'll be calling you Dr. Escherbanger with your doctoral. So I appreciate your time, and appreciate y'all joining us. And again, this would have been an in-person presentation, but due to our COVID-19 that we're experiencing and going through these days, we're delivering it in this manner. Thank you for joining us. Y'all have a good day.